Oh yes. Oh yes, nothing like an addition to the saturated market of Wii U post-mortem close looks to pull a dead channel out of its grave. Now, before we get started, I would like to thank those of you who have subscribed to the channel over the last few months. You may not have realized it, but this was effectively an abandoned channel. And after sort of randomly seeing the support for the Eraserhead video that I made, while not enormous by most people's standards, it was very special and meaningful to me. So for the record, I'm not the happiest with the content from 2021 and so on. I'm gonna be taking a break from the movie breakdowns, if you will. I don't really even know what they were. They were like a walkthrough for movies, I suppose, but no more of those today. I hope that the slight shift in content is bearable for you, and for those who decide to stick around, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, while I find the Wii U's whole troubled history to be as entertaining and as goofy as anybody else does, I don't come at you with an agenda today in this video. In fact, this video was born purely out of ignorance and the will to learn. A couple of weeks ago, I'm thinking a lot about the Wii U, okay? And more specifically, I'm thinking about how I know virtually nothing about the console. I knew it existed, I knew it came out post-Wii, and I saw some like vague, blurry images in my head of like a white leapfrog or something. So I started asking people, did they know what a Wii U is? Did they ever own one? Did they ever play on one? And the results were pretty clear here. Everybody knew Wii U was out there. They all had heard of the Wii U, but there was a distinct lack of knowledge amongst the group as to what it did or what it really even was. Out of everybody I talked to, there was only one person whose response wavered from neutrality, okay? You might just be saying, well, Adam, you know, your friends and you are just silly and stupid, and I'll take it. But what I won't take is the notion that this console, developed by one of the most gargantuan forces in home entertainment, released after the fucking Wii, God rest her soul, slipped right under our noses. So I aim to explore that today, a sort of layman's historical account of the fabled forgotten console, and an honest attempt to answer the question, what even is Wii U? To fully understand and appreciate what happened with the Wii U, it's good to form a basic understanding of the context surrounding its development. Nintendo has always been a strong player in what are generally referred to as the console wars. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Nintendo established dominance over Atari and Sega in the home console market, effectively making Nintendo the top console contender until Sony introduced the PlayStation in 1994. Once the sixth generation of consoles rolled around, Microsoft was in, Sega was out, and three players were left to fight over their share of the market: Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. At this point, each company has a solid lineup of exclusive titles and an army of fans ready to go to bat for their chosen hardware vendor. This set the stage for the 7th generation releases. The 7th home console generation was, in two words, culturally massive. It saw the release of Sony's PlayStation 3, Microsoft's Xbox 360, and Nintendo's Wii. If you search for the winner of this generation's console war, you'll likely be given the answer, Microsoft. If you were a 360 adopter, as I was, this is almost insultingly obvious. However, you may be shocked to discover that today, the numbers tell a different story. At the time of making this video, the Xbox 360 has sold just under 86 million units, with the PlayStation coming in a hair ahead at 87.4 million units sold. The Wii, on the other hand, has sold a whopping 101.6 million units, making it the 5th best-selling console of all time, excluding handhelds. The remaining top spots being taken by the later released Nintendo Switch and every single PlayStation iteration aside from the 3 and 5, with the PlayStation 2 setting a sales benchmark that is yet to be surpassed by any subsequent console from any company ever. All of this to say, Nintendo moved a fuckload of Wiis, and despite the potential for it to be overshadowed by the other sweet games that Sony and Microsoft were working with at the time, the impact that the Wii had on what I'm going to refer to as gaming culture cannot be understated. And no matter how hard you were grinding COD 3 multiplayer, or how close you were to unlocking Hayabusa, you had space in your heart for bowling. The Wii was everywhere. Wii Sports was at Target, Mario and Sonic were doing Olympics, and yoga was happening at one point. The games of tennis, the dozens of handcrafted Miis, and the one relative that upon seeing the console on the shelf for the first time would say something like,
"Ooh, that's kind of small."
It was a real treat, and despite not owning a Wii myself, I took every opportunity I could to visit the house of any friend who had one. The Wii hit a real sweet spot by taking the whole family-focused gaming angle. It was really the one console that allowed the whole family to get involved in a way that didn't exactly work with other consoles of the time. You couldn't really sit down with your parents and play a game of, say, Oblivion, or co-op Gears of War with your grandmother. Even if she could figure out the dual-stick movement, the content would be entirely disagreeable. Wii Sports, not a problem. You can give Grandma a Wii Remote and she'll be swinging it around like a pro in a matter of moments, and she'll also enjoy the small characters and how they move around on the screen. It's not worth trying to remember a period of time in which gaming as a pastime was more widely celebrated and adopted by those of all age ranges. The Wii's life cycle undeniably was that time. A perfectly wholesome family console with a very fun motion control gimmick. The motion controls themselves were not amazing. They were just good enough to get done what needed to get done on screen, and they did come with their fair share of headaches, including broken TVs and damaged drywall.
And when oh, jeez, and there goes the tennis racket.
But despite its shortcomings, Nintendo set an incredibly high bar with the Wii. As far as public goodwill, Nintendo couldn't have asked for a better platform from which to launch a follow-up console. Failure simply was not an option. Following the massive success of the Wii, 2008 saw Nintendo's focus shift. An issue had caught the attention of the company internally, that being the public perception of the Wii. At this point, the Wii had garnered a reputation as being a console for casual gamers. Despite several solid mainline releases and franchises like The Legend of Zelda, Mario, and arguably Super Smash Bros., Nintendo felt that it was losing its grip on what are referred to as core gamers. According to this funny little gamer chart on Wikipedia, core gamers are classified as players that are a step more involved than casual gamers. Anyway, Nintendo wasn't particularly happy with this whole caters to casual gamers label and aimed to address this perceived misstep in their upcoming Wii sequel, the veritable Wii-quel, if you will. In an interview with Popular Mechanics, Shigeru Miyamoto expressed an interest in the Wii's successor being more compact and cost-efficient. Motion controls were rumored to make a return, and some interior chatter revealed that a small screen was planned to be incorporated into the device. This screen would provide various bits of in-game feedback. Now, this wasn't exactly new. For some reason, Nintendo really loves the idea of these little secondary screens, and sort of milked the idea for all it was worth during the long-ass DS lifecycle that lasted roughly my entire childhood. And this is just my feeling on the matter, but I can't put my finger on any game that used the second screen in a way that didn't feel tacked on. This was even the case with some first-party Nintendo titles, and I remember feeling this way as a child. But to be fair, I am just going off of memory for this bit, and I'm in all likelihood wrong, but in fact, the Super Mario 64 game for the DS actually had a pretty good use of... I don't know, never mind. If this is a feature of the DS that you hold nostalgia for, or if it was an incredible selling point for you, I can't fault that, but I myself was in it for the flippy screen. Envisioning this secondary screen feature on a piece of 2024 hardware is not a super innovative or compelling concept, obviously, but my point here is that I can't imagine it being much more innovative or compelling in 2012. I digress. These rumors would be put to bed during E3 2011, during which Nintendo held a presentation where late Nintendo of America president Reggie Fils-Aimé would unveil the Wii-quel, a console, tablet, controller hybrid device called the Wii U, a markedly inoffensive presentation that featured an unfortunate lack of wow factor, along with some very beat-around-the-bush language regarding what the device actually was. Here is my best attempt at a plain English breakdown of what the Wii U is and what it does. The Wii U is an entirely separate console from the Wii. However, the backward compatibility featured on the console is so comprehensive that effectively all original Wii peripherals and the original Wii games are usable/playable on the Wii U. Well, that begs the question, what does it do differently from its predecessor? Well, the Wii U comes with both a console and a tablet controller referred to as the gamepad. The console hooks up to your TV and the gamepad can go wherever within a certain range of the console TV setup, a reportedly short range. Some games treat the television display and the tablet display as interchangeable screens, while others have unique functionality for both screens. This means that some games can be played on either the television or tablet screen independently, and some games require both the use of the TV and tablet screen simultaneously. I understand if this really isn't coming through, it is a tough pitch. In the days following this presentation at E3, Nintendo would see a nearly 7.5% fall in stock price, as shareholders seemed to expect more from a massive reveal opportunity like E3. Some disappointment was also expressed by the tech community regarding the console's failure to adopt 3D TV compatibility, but that criticism didn't age particularly well. Rough reception aside, a worldwide 2012 Q4 release date was scheduled. Nintendo would take the next few months to market the console and prepare for a holiday release. Traditionally, this period is when the bulk of consumers are introduced to your product, ideally in a consistent, almost pestering manner. During this time, it would become quite clear as to why Nintendo's 8th generation entry lacked a certain amount of boost. It seems that all of those creative juices were saved up for the marketing cycle. Despite Nintendo's previously expressed concerns about excluding core gamers from their upcoming console release, the ad cycle for the Wii U was strangely juvenile. Not to say that's wrong or out of place. Nintendo is a family-friendly company at the end of the day. Even if the Wii U's marketing strategy was solely meant to appeal to Nintendo's community of core gamers, it still wouldn't be considered anything near explicit or edgy. All to say, the commercials that made it to air are about as casual as you can imagine, with a heavy emphasis on family time, which is used as a core theme of the holiday-focused ad run. These are typical. Overacted? Sure. Cringy? Sure. Typical? Very. These ads alone aren't responsible for what would become of the Wii U, not by a long shot. What these ads did, or more accurately what they did not do, is provide much at all in the way of information. This typically isn't a huge issue for a console's ad cycle. You see a new number after the words PlayStation and you have a pretty good idea of what the new system will be. Nintendo, on the other hand, arguably has a greater responsibility to strive for clarity in advertising, at least for their hardware. Nintendo is famous for employing gimmicks, or novelty features, in their consoles. As harsh as those words may sound on the surface, this isn't at all a bad thing. It's just a quirk of Nintendo that can't be overlooked. With this in mind, the Wii U's ad cycle didn't really do all that much to inform the viewer on how the system worked. It didn't help that the console portion of the Wii U does little to visually differ itself from a base Wii console, nor did it get much screen time compared to the gamepad. This, along with the insistence on using the phrase
upgrade to Wii U,
upgrade to the Wii U, caused many consumers to develop the false impression that the Wii U was simply an addition to their current Wii hardware, rather than an entirely new console. Along with all of this, even the name of the console itself inherently supports this false impression. Most of the title is Wii. Once you're thinking about it from this angle, it just makes sense. All to say, these commercials did nothing to solve this, and if anything, just served to perpetuate the misunderstanding. The hype failure is self-explanatory. I understand that these sort of family-framed holiday ads are totally necessary within the grand scheme of Nintendo's marketing. However, again, I'm going to say the words, core gamers. This was supposedly Nintendo's big shot at making an impression on this group. A group notorious for generating lots of hype. Needless to say, there isn't a ton of evidence to show that this incentive was actualized in any capacity, at least within the marketing of the Wii U. I can't allow myself to conclude this segment without at least touching on this very, very weird set of promotional ads for the Amiibo. So Amiibo are these little Funko Pop looking figurines that have in-game functionality within certain Nintendo titles. They're still around today and are used on the Switch, but the Wii U is where they made their debut. Anyway, this set of 5 episodic ads star 4 uncredited actors, and I really can only find info on 2 of them. One is Sophia Antoves. Allegedly. She's done some stuff, has a YouTube channel. And the other is Joe Keery, pre-Stranger Things. If you know who these other individuals are or are privy to their other work, feel free to share. So I'm gonna rapid fire some goofy moments from this saga because it's pretty rough. Off-kilter banter.
I'm not in.
You're not in?
I don't have one of those.
I love you, you're my brother, but I don't know if you're ready.
It's his time.
Strange romantic undertone.
See you, Gina.
Bye, Jack.
That could be a nice relation. Don't say that, dude. That's not funny.
Joe Keery showing signs of being a competent on-screen personality. Credit where it's due.
Oh, I actually didn't make it into the track team that day, so I was kind of upset. That was just a personal thing.
Weird internal dialogue.
Mario and Peach together. Me and Gina together.
This face that he's doing, and the Lil Bromeo arc.
Yes!
Come on. Hey, Lil Bromeo. You're no match for my Samus.
I left out a whole Act 2 redemption arc, but you'll just have to check the ads out for yourself, you won't be sorry. Ultimately, the marketing for the Wii U fell flat. These ads are left as stark reminders of what was, for lack of a better term, an attempt. The Wii U would launch in late November 2012 in North America and Europe, and early December in Japan, with a humble 32 launch titles. The base bundle would sell for $300 USD, and a deluxe edition could be purchased for $350 USD. As it stands, this launch would prove to be one of Nintendo's most disappointing to date. Aside from the TV color game and the Virtual Boy, which to be fair are both sales anomalies in Nintendo's catalog, the Wii U is Nintendo's worst selling console. It barely beats out the Game & Watch, which is not a good sign when your sales numbers for a 2012 hardware release are comparable to those of a handheld from 1980. When looking to critic reviews of the time, a general sense of uncertainty is omnipresent. IGN, while ultimately positively reviewing the console, still criticized its battery life as well as its reportedly lengthy load times. Forbes expressed concerns with the difficulty third-party developers may face when creating titles. Wired didn't like the gamepad speaker, etc., etc. Colin Letcher from Popular Science did describe it as the best-looking console ever made, which is cool. None of these reviews were particularly scathing. In fact, all of them tended to err on the side of optimism, leaning on the fact that they were still enjoying the console for the things it was doing right. Consumers were not far off from this line of thinking. Many praised the console for its comfort, playability, and HD screen, while simultaneously complaining about the gamepad's short battery life, the lack of intriguing titles, or its generally questionable value. To date, the Wii U has sold 13.56 million units. While this number in and of itself is not small, flanked by the original Wii and the later released Nintendo Switch, the picture becomes quite clear. The Wii U was a complete, relative, commercial failure. Up to this point, we've discussed a number of factors that may have contributed to the rough sales of the Wii U, but I have tried to avoid labeling any of them as the definitive ship sinker. I'll go ahead and do that now. In my opinion, 2 factors disproportionately contributed to the Wii U's relative failure. Number 1, the name. The Wii U's identity is to this day heavily obscured by its association to the Wii. The logo and branding is virtually identical, U being nothing more than a tacked-on addition to a previously established brand. Not to mention, the heavy focus on the gamepad and the Wii U's advertising as opposed to the console caused many to assume that the console shown in the commercials was the original Wii.
I genuinely, as a consumer, thought it was an attachment for my Wii.
Everyone did.
A unique name for the system would have at the very least given it an opportunity to stand on its own, free of whatever influence its association with the Wii may have had on its release. Fortunately or unfortunately, fretting about the name is all for naught. At most, I can only theorize that a total rebranding of the Wii U would have only served to improve its initial sales numbers. As the holiday season passed on and the Wii U no longer enjoyed the benefit of being considered new technology, issue number 2 is what I believe ultimately cemented the Wii U's legacy in mediocrity. Number 2, games. Third-party titles. The Wii U was absolutely dry on third-party titles. This is due partly to the inherent complications that come with developing games for such unique hardware. The gamepad, TV, dual-screen interactivity only had so many practical applications, and developers were evidently not overly inspired by its potential as a target development platform. On the other hand, I've seen speculation that the Wii U was simply too weak to run the big titles being released at the time, but this does not seem to be the case. Take a look at the launch titles, for instance. This selection does not do a great job of indicating that the console is too weak to run the latest games. No. I think that the Wii U's perceived abandonment by third-party developers has much more to do with something that came almost exactly 1 year after the Wii U. Well, 2 things. The PlayStation 4 and Xbox One were released in November of 2013, and in terms of specs left the Wii U in the dust. From a development standpoint, committing to build for one of these more powerful systems may have been a more favorable choice in terms of potential longevity and success. In summation, the Wii U is just doomed from the start. Its title was bad, the ads sucked, and the console's core gimmick wasn't strong enough to distract from the lack of available content. As with any piece of art, media, or technology that sees a newfound appreciation through a modern context, the Wii U has found its audience. Many of the exclusive first-party games that released throughout the console's lifecycle have become beloved additions to their respective franchises. It also has Wind Waker HD, which is pretty cool. The system is seeing major love from the homebrew scene, who consider the console to be a fantastic option for those looking to efficiently emulate games from a number of Nintendo consoles. By and large, people are really enjoying the Wii U. Many consider it to be an appreciating asset that will one day have its value recognized by those who initially ignored it. The growing community of Wii U adopters seem to take pride in this fact, as they realize the potential in a device that so many have written off as not worth paying any attention to. In truth, it's only fair to call the Wii U a failure when looking at the numbers. A lack of commercial success is often used as a general indicator of quality, be it applied to an artist, their art, or a corporation and their product. Despite our being able to look at a plethora of examples that fly in the face of this claim, this line of thinking is pervasive, and the Wii U has undoubtedly fallen victim to this fallacy.